Hi there. My name is Suze, and I work with women to help them find balance between their internal masculine and feminine energies so that they can have lives that feel really emotionally fulfilling, full of love and connection. Today, I want to do a part two of a video I did, and I wasn't planning on doing a part two, I'll tell you that. Um, but there were comments that were left that made me understand that I wanted to go a little bit deeper into this so that there would not be any misunderstanding and that I wouldn't set people up for failure in having conversations in their connections, in their relationships, in their life. I really take a lot of responsibility on making sure that my message is very clear and that there isn't any setting anyone up for misinterpretation and therefore sabotaging what they're trying to do in their lives. That's very important to me. So, like I said, I wasn't planning on doing this video, but clearly I am being led to do it. So here's part two of conflict and intimacy. If you have not seen that video first, please, please, please make sure you go there first and then come back and see this one. And as always, I always really appreciate and value those of you who are leaving me comments because it really does show me where I may be communicating things in a way that is not being understood energetically the way that I want it to be understood and I feel needs to be understood. I also appreciate those of you who've been leaving comments with ideas of what you'd like to hear me speak about. Please, I encourage more of those comments. Anything you want me to expand or elaborate on, or any particular subject that you're thinking of that maybe a video of mine prompted in you that you'd like to hear me speak on, please let me know. I also recommend really emailing me those kinds of things as well. I don't check my comments here on YouTube very regularly, but my email I do check very consistently. So I will drop my email in the description box here below. It also is love@inhalelovewithsuze.com. So if you have anything you want to discuss with me or ask me to speak about here, any questions, concerns, and you want to be more private too, just feel free to email me and I will get back to you or discuss it here if that is what needs to happen. So thank you so much for the love from all of you. I really appreciate those of you who are coming along with me, and I appreciate the work you are doing in your life, in your world, in your circle of influence. The work you're doing on yourself is impacting those around you. I see you, I honor you, and I thank you for doing your work to create a ripple effect of change in the world. So back to today's subject, conflict and intimacy. What do I want to say about that is that here's the thing. In my story, this was a really big stumbling block for me. In my story with my childhood, I was not allowed to speak up for myself. And clearly, if we're entering into conflict or potential conflict, there is the element of I need to speak something. I need to speak up for myself. I need to feel seen. I need to feel heard. I'm feeling misunderstood, so I want to clarify. I don't like how this feels, so I need to create change in this dynamic. That's the underlying stuff clearly that's happening when we decide to communicate and potentially get into conflict, right? And as I've said before, fear of conflict is simply fear of intimacy. Fear of conflict is fear of intimacy because you can't have intimacy unless you're being authentic. Into me, see. It requires vulnerability and authenticity of two people coming together, coming to the table, getting vulnerable, and working collaboratively together to create something better in the future, moving forward in the connection, in the dynamic, in the relationship, right? So, as you know, those of you who are following me and commenting, I know you understand this. When you're speaking, you're in your masculine energy, right? Anytime you're taking energy from inside of you and putting it out into the world in whatever form, you're giving energy out in the form of speaking here. It's masculine. You're in the masculine mode. Okay? Now, here's the problem. Okay? I've said this before and I need to say it again, and I'm probably going to say it a million times because I don't hear enough people saying this out there. Success in your external relationship with a masculine. Success, healing, growth, deeper connection in the relationship outside of you with your masculine is entirely dependent on you learning how to be simultaneously in your own masculine and feminine energies at the same time, working together collaboratively, in harmony, in unity within yourself. Then that therefore reflects into your dynamic with your external masculine. As within, so without. So it's not you being in one or the other. It is you internally knowing how to be in harmony, in collaboration, in integration of your own inner masculine and feminine simultaneously, so that you can show up externally in your relationship, in your connection with your external masculine and find collaboration and integration. This is not discussed enough. Now, what do I mean by that exactly? Let's talk practical. We're talking about conflict. This is where, again, a lot of information I see in the women's empowerment space, again, is completely sabotaging the whole thing. If you want to feel seen and heard, you must not ignore the feminine element of it. If you are being aggressive in your communication, you're not being soft in your communication. You're not being open-hearted and vulnerable in your communication. If you're not speaking from your heart in your communication, you are not integrating the feminine aspect into the potential conflict. You are only in your masculine. So think about how that's what's happening energetically then externally. If you are speaking and wanting to feel seen and heard and valued, and you are speaking, and in your speaking, you're only speaking in a masculine structure of communication, and you're dealing with a masculine figure outside of you, you're going to have repelling. Because I've said that before about the magnets, right? You have a plus end, which is your masculine. You have a plus end of a magnet and you have a negative end, and that's what creates them coming together. If you have a plus and a plus, you have repelling. The plus is the masculine, the negative is the feminine. So you must gather your masculine energy, your healthy masculine energy, to learn to come to the table and speak up for yourself, yes. But how you communicate must be feminine, or you will have repulsion, repelling, happening with the external masculine. And that's where there's not enough information, I feel, that I've seen yet being spoken, is how do you communicate from the heart space? There's not enough information on it, and I will be expanding on that, not here, not now, today, not enough time. It's speaking from the heart space and not the mind space. And I will say this, again, in my experience, in my life, there was a hyper focus on my upbringing on intelligence, a hyper focus. And usually with women in our backgrounds, there's usually a hyper focus on intelligence or performance, both of which are entirely 100% masculine energy. There is a sense that your worth as a girl, as a woman, as a feminine, there's this underlying conditioning that happened to you in your life where your worth and your value is considered on how intelligent or educated you are, or in how hard you work and how much you perform and the results that you can give. All masculine energy. So if you're now learning to take masculine energy and come to the table and have a conversation, and you're bringing any of that stuff into how you communicate, you're going to have a big problem because you're communicating in masculine energy. It isn't about sitting down and proving that you're right, or proving that you're logical, or proving that you're intelligent and you have a reason for feeling the way you feel, or there's reasons and logic around anything. It's not about that necessarily. It's not about proving that you're worthy of something, or that you've earned something, or that you've earned the right to ask for something to change or something to be different. The energy of the communication cannot come from that space because that space is entirely masculine. So your communication will completely repel the external masculine. The communication has to come from your heart, which feels a lot more scary. I'm getting reminded right now of the video I did, The Feminine Goes First, and I talk about that. This is kind of actually a part 2 of that one in a way as well. If you haven't seen that one, The Feminine Goes First, please do, because that is super duper important to this conversation right here. The feminine going first in the relationship to deepen the connection. She's going to lead through the emotions, lead through the heart space, lead through creating emotional safety for the masculine in the dynamic. It's the same thing happening here. How you communicate. Is it coming from your heart space? Are you totally exposing yourself emotionally? If you're afraid of rejection, or you're afraid of loss in the relationship for speaking up for yourself, or you're afraid of being shamed for being emotional, or you're afraid of being rejected and betrayed for allowing your emotional side to be seen, you're going to have a problem with communicating from the heart space. And don't misunderstand. I'm not talking about being overly emotional in your communication as far as like yelling and screaming or crying. Sometimes crying is necessary. I'm not shaming crying, but overly being physically emotional, it's not about that. It's about the words of emotional aspect and energy. It's not so much of the physical external, it's the internal word choices of showing emotion and showing where you're at emotionally, not an external outburst of sorts. Okay? So I'm going to continue this conversation at some point in time later. I have some other topics that I'm really feeling that they need to be laid out here first. But this is really important that we understand this because, again, this women's empowerment of being seen and being heard can go very, very wrong and not give you the result you want and are looking for, the healthy love response and results that you're looking for if your communication and you're being seen and you're being heard is coming from a masculine space. It's not about logic or intelligence. It's not about performance and results. It's the heart space. And that took me a long time to figure out how to communicate in that way. Because it feels so foreign and people don't talk about it. And people don't know how to communicate that way. But it feels very soft. And in the softness, there's relief. Because soft is relaxing. Soft is opening. Soft is welcoming. Soft is inviting. Attractive. A soft blanket, a soft pillow. That's inviting and attractive and magnetic. Think about that. Think about that. That's what brings you down the path of where you actually want to go in your connection. So I'm going to leave this video here. Thank you for those of you who have been contributing your comments. I really appreciate you. If you're new here and you're really resonated with this message and appreciate, please do subscribe and like so that my message can be seen more by others out there. I so appreciate your support. Thank you so much for listening and have a beautiful day.